Today's theme is life. We've actually made it to the end of our 12 series on the 12 powers. Here we are. I know, of course we knew we were going to make it, but it just seemed like a long time we started, at least it did to me. So we've made it to the end, so life. And even though I've never actually watched Frankenstein or done anything, a lot of times when I think of life, I think of, a science lab and a doctor going, "It's alive!" or something like that, which is one interpretation of life. And it's not necessarily exactly how we would interpret the power of life, but that idea, I'm alive. That's a great affirmation, and I'm going to talk about how that's probably one of the most powerful affirmations that we can declare about ourselves. So what do we mean by life? Well, we are used to life meaning maybe the time from when someone is born to the time that they die. That's sort of what we think of as the definition for life. But as we've discovered, some of the 12 powers use a little definitions that's a little bit different than what we think of in our normal everyday use of words. Life, in this context, is unending, unextinguishable, constantly renewing. It's actually very scientific. The first law of thermodynamics says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's science. Love when science backs up spiritual principle. It's great. So sometimes it may seem like it's coming from nowhere, but there's potential there, and it's transformed into something new. Remember the bicycle on the top of the hill, potential energy, and then it comes down, kinetic energy and all that? Sort of, maybe. It's where we're headed. Anyway. So the first aspect of life is animation. This is our forward movement. Natural life moves along in a steady and undirected way on its own. If I leave potatoes too long in a dark drawer, they will start to sprout. But it is not intelligent, the potato is not intelligent enough to realize that other resources are necessary to actually create more potatoes. Now, if I add my own intelligence to that forward movement, I will make sure that it has the required nutrients and water and light and all of those things to create more potatoes, which I got to harvest this week, which was awesome. Because it said it was going to frost, so I figured I better get on it, right? So if we were to take that, we could say I directed the growth with my consciousness, with my knowledge. So life is moving and thriving around us without end. When we use our powers of wisdom and love, faith and imagination, and of course all of the rest of them, we can use them to form and direct the power of life. We have unlimited potential, which, of course, because we have unlimited potential, this brings us to the next aspect, which is vitality. This is I don't know. I know. I love all the powers. I should just say I love this power. Because I do. Love the powers. So, we all know that when it comes to spiritual truth, I'm ready to go hardcore all the way. Right? And I know that this makes some people uncomfortable. And I know that there are plenty of ministers and pastors out there who are happy to stick with warm and fuzzy in the status quo and not go all the way hardcore because it sometimes feels uncomfortable. But I've been here almost a year, and I know that you all are ready for it. So here we go. Because we want to get real. We're not here to mess around, right? We're here for the real stuff. Life is wholeness. Your body, your affairs, everything in the world, in your world, is based on a blueprint of wholeness, of vitality. You're based on that blueprint. Period. So it may seem at times that you are far from that truth, because we've all been there, and we all probably have parts of that at this moment living in our lives, but that doesn't change the fact that we are based on a blueprint for vitality in life. It's just true. So it's true that at some point our bodies die, and for many of us there might be an illness associated with it. That's, the circle of life and all that. It is also true that we are based on this blueprint of wholeness. So how do we reconcile that? Well, we're starting to get into where we're using all our powers. We're using all the powers. So I've known numerous people, and you might have too, who've been told by their doctor that they needed this medication or that medication. And these people, instead of filling the script and going about their life as usual, have instead went into prayer and taken time to contemplate this and whether or not this was actually the right choice for them. And in prayer, I know people have found many different solutions. Some of them followed the script and followed the doctor's orders and went forward and did exactly that. And others said, I'm not sure that this is the right solution for me, and went a completely different direction. And other people found somewhere in the middle, maybe finding the doctor's intervention to be part of the solution and another intervention to be a rest of the solution. Because what a lot of Western doctors know is that a lot of people don't want to do the work that's required to make a change. They just want a medicine to fix it. But if we know in our truth that we are built on this wholeness blueprint, then we can also make a change in our consciousness to say, I don't want to be on high blood pressure medicine, or whatever it is that is the thing that you have been told that you need. And you say, I'm going to do something about it. And maybe you take the medicine for a while, but I know people who have completely transformed their personal health and well-being, diagnoses, all sorts of amazing things by truly claiming the truth of who they are and acting on it. No laziness about it. It's hard work. It takes a lot of commitment. And too often, I think it's like, if we just say, okay, well, the doctor said that this is what's wrong with me, this is what's wrong with me, and that's what you continue to say, then you're just making it more and more true, right? Because you decided that it's true. But if you say, I don't think that that's the permanent situation, it may be true at this moment, but it doesn't mean that's the final answer. It may be raining today, but that doesn't mean it's going to rain forever, hopefully. So, now, one of the reasons why people shy away from talking about this kind of stuff is because it's very easy for people to fall into the metaphysical malpractice trap. And that is because if we're not paying attention, we may say, oh, well, so-and-so says they have this diagnosis and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and what is wrong with their consciousness that that's happening? Stop it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because that's not your business. Jesus is quoted in Matthew 7 of saying, do not judge so that you may not be judged. For you, with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? That's some good advice right there. Or how can you say to your neighbor, let me take the speck out of your eye while the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. So, when we talk about this vitality and this wholeness and how it outpictures in our lives, this is our own inner journey. This is our own story to talk about with ourselves, to ask, how can I be more of this divine blueprint? How can I claim that and affirm that in my life and know that I'm continuing to get more and more whole? And maybe you have a trusted friend or, a minister who you want to talk about with those things. But it's never our job to go and tell someone else how they need to fix themselves. Clear? All right. Because that blaming doesn't help anybody. And blaming ourselves for what we may have made a mistake with in the past is not very helpful either. Just say, oh, made that mistake. Not going to make that mistake again. Let's move on. Make a new choice. So, we don't have to believe, even if we say, okay, right in this time, because we've all probably had help at some point by something in Western medicine. It's probably helped all of us at some point with something. I'm grateful to have a straight arm instead of a crooked arm from when I broke my arm really, really badly when I was 13. It's a good thing. I'm grateful. But that doesn't mean that, but I still don't, that's healed. It's done, And so we get to say that this is not our permanent situation. We can move on. We can say, I'm the divine blueprint. And whatever wholeness Outpitcher's looking for us, it's going to look different for each of us. So, that kind of brings us to the last part of this, the last element that we're going to look at, which is presence. And that is that we're each unique expressions of the one God, which is why we all have different outpicturings of this divine blueprint of wholeness. Charles Fillmore wrote, "We are not manifesting life as we desire it. It is because our thoughts and our conversation are not in accord with the life idea. Every time we think life, speak life, rejoice in life, we are setting free and bringing into expression in ourselves more and more of the life ideal." So, our presence is us saying more and more, in getting more and more in alignment with the truth of life. And so our experiences are filtered through the glasses of our consciousness. I've mentioned this before. So it's not only how we see the world, because some of us see the world as for us, and some of us see the world as against us, or somewhere in the middle. But it's also who makes us how, this individual expression is what makes us who we are, this different ways of life showing up. Because we all express creativity differently, or we have things that we're passionate and excited about, and we show that we care, and all these different, we do it differently, and then we still get to be individual. We're individual expressions of one God. And so we are unique and repeatable expressions of God. Isn't that, there's a song about that. I didn't think about it until last night, but it's a great song. We're a unique, unrepeatable expression of God. And at the same time, we are not separate from God. It's true. It's kind of like blows your mind, I think, sometimes. So I believe that we are here to more and more remember our Godness. And to remember that we are those unique, unrepeatable expressions of God. And to remember that we are built on a divine blueprint. And that is the best of who we can be. And that the feelings of separation that we might have from God, Spirit, whatever you want to call God, or in each other, are what causes a lot of the problems that we perceive in the world. Is that feeling that we're separate, that we're different, and that, I need to somehow approve my betterness. Instead of knowing that we're all unique, unrepeatable expressions of God, and that's wonderful and amazing. And each one of us can be wonderful and amazing. And that doesn't diminish anyone else's wonderful and amazingness. But we got to remember we're not here to criticize the dust in anyone else's eye. To criticize the goof-ups of anybody else. It's not mine to do. I have my own goof-ups to deal with. And that's what I need to focus on, is becoming more and more of the truth of who I am. And so, I'm just going to declare I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm vibrant. I release stagnation. Stagnation is the opposite of life. We think of death as the opposite, but stagnation, like we talked about last week, it's ugh. It's the opposite of life. I release any stagnation, anything that's holding me back, and I will be the most vital and whole that I can be, letting my aliveness be a beacon. Hoping that as more and more of us declare our aliveness, we will lift up the world and be more joyous, whole, and peaceful as a community, as a world, as a people. Now, all because we know that we're alive. And so I invite you to join me in affirming, I am alive. I am alive. All right, say it with more oomph. I am alive. Yes. All right. Can you say, I am a unique, unrepeatable expression of God. I am a unique, unrepeatable expression of God. Those are big words, but they're really excellent words. All right. So go out there, remember that you are alive. You are the light of the world.